Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley. Warning. You are about to enter the propaganda report with Brad Binkley.
That's right. You have entered the propaganda report with Brad Binkley. I had to run off camera there because I forgot that I had my fan spinning fast and rapid. It was making a lot of noise, so I had to cut that off real quick. This is Propaganda Report. I am your host, Brad Binkley, doing another tech experiment, trying to streamline things, make everything a little bit easier. Hopefully, it will run smooth like it did the other day. Let's dive in to the show this evening. What is that noise? I don't know. I just heard a weird noise. Nevertheless, let's move. Maybe I should have left the fan on so that the noise did not distract me. Tonight's show, Edward Bernays on how to divide and conquer. That's going to be the bulk of it that we'll do towards the end. But let's start off with, I want to start off something a little bit positive because the news is so negative and divisive all the time, which Edward Bernays tells people how to do in his books that were written over 100 years ago. But I know a lot of people have their thoughts on Scott Adams, their criticisms, whatever. I have definitely criticized him over the years, but I think that he does a lot of good things. I want to say this about him. Scott Adams is sick. He has cancer. And he seems to be pretty sick, but he's trying new treatments that seem to be helping him, and he's optimistic. I'll say this, when he first announced that he was sick, he seemed hopeless, honestly. And then I think because he put it out there were other opportunities that he was exposed to. I know that he did give a call to Trump on X to try and get some help, which I don't blame someone who's fighting for their life for doing if they have that capacity. I don't blame someone for that at all. But the dude does his show every single day still. And he is very ill at times. And he's taken a lot of medicine that makes him ill in the process of hopefully helping him. And I just have to give him a lot of credit for still continuing to do his show nearly every day. The only time he didn't do it, as far as I can tell, is when he had to go to the hospital, in which he still did like 5 minutes from a hospital bed. I see that, and I'm like, man, I got to get more consistent. The guy is fighting a pretty tough illness, and he's still giving people an hour 15, an hour and a half every day. Oftentimes, he has a lot of energy, too. Sometimes you can tell he's a little drugged up, but still very insightful. So I just want to give him some praise and some credit for that. His work ethic is admirable. Okay, now let's get on to all the divisive stuff that makes people angry all the time. Am I live across all those things? Like I said, I'm testing things. So I'm going to double check things here and there to make sure. I think that I am. That's a weird camera view they have on Instagram. StreamYard does a lot of weird camera views now. But okay, I think it is live. All right, so credit to Scott. Shout out to him for doing that. I think it's a good example of work ethic and makes me want to, as I said, get more consistent since he does it every day and he's sick. So there's no reason that I shouldn't be doing it more consistently. All right, Waymo. We talked about Waymo yesterday and how it just drives into like standoffs and other situations. Well, we have another Waymo story today, and this one is framed as a little bit more positive today. We learned today about Waymo, the driverless cars, that not only can you ride in the back of a Waymo, you can give birth inside of a Waymo. This is the thing. There's women who are giving birth in the backs of Waymo cars. I'm guessing the back. Do you sit in the front or the back of a Waymo? That's a question I have. I've actually never seen anyone in a Waymo. I've seen a Waymo empty, driving around like a ghostly psychopath, but I've never seen anyone in it, so I don't know where you sit. Honestly, if I called a Waymo to come pick me up, I might just pop open the trunk, crawl in the trunk. Is that acceptable? Can you get in the trunk like a hostage to ride in a Waymo? I don't know. Somebody should try it safely, of course. Because then people are like, nobody's in that Waymo. Then you pop the trunk open. You're like, ha, ha, ha. Somebody is in the Waymo. And that'd be a weird trick. We all know they're going to become roving brothels. We all know that. It's just going to be something people give birth and have sex in. But that's not the point of the story. Births are happening in Waymo. And this isn't even the first one that happened earlier this week on Monday. Apparently, it is something that happens frequently. There's a woman in San Francisco. So whoever knocked this woman up was too busy to take her to the hospital. And he said, get a Waymo, bitch. Let it take you to the hospital. Daddy's got work to do. And she got in the Waymo on the way to the hospital to go birth her baby for her and the father that didn't care enough to ride along. And on the way there, the baby popped right out because it was not ready to wait for the hospital. And bada bing, bada boom, there's a baby coming out in the back of a Waymo. Now, Waymo did ensure its customers that they took that car out of the rotation so that it could be cleaned. So that's good to know. You're not just going to get it. You're not going to have a baby birthed in the back of a Waymo, push that woman and her newborn out, and then you get right in and sit in all that. You're not going to be like, oh, what is this? Is this umbilical cord? Am I sitting on umbilical cord in the backseat? That's not going to happen because they take it out of commission. And I think they have another Waymo wash it. So one Waymo washes the other Waymo, I think. I actually don't know how they clean the Waymos. Do people clean the Waymos? Or do robots clean them? Or do they just say they get cleaned and they just leave them sitting for a little while and they just kind of like brush them off? I have no idea. Nevertheless, it's quite an experiment we see with these Waymos. You see them all over the city. You see the Waymos and you see the robot food delivery things. And you can just kick those things if you want. I mean, don't. You might get arrested if you get caught, and I'm certain they have cameras. But they're very kickable. It's almost like they're begging you to kick them. Because they're just little tiny, obnoxious. It's just... And they're around college students. I mean, if I was in college, I would definitely get arrested for kicking little robot food delivery Waymos. And refusing to cut umbilical cords in the back of Waymo. I don't know. How do they do? They have scissors that come out. So the Waymo apparently alerted authorities that something odd was going on in the back of the car. So it can sense something odd going on. It can't sense a standoff and stop and not drive through a standoff going on with police cars, but it can sense something odd going on, like a birth in the back of it. And it reports that back to headquarters. Tell me this. What about when people are having sex in the back of the Waymo? Why drive when we can bang in the back of a weird automatic driving car? Is that behavior that it senses? Does it go, this is not, because that could be birth-like. Does that data get sent and reported? Do Waymo, I don't know if there's Waymo authorities. I think you have to be very careful what you do in a Waymo, because we now know that if you're giving birth in a Waymo, it's sending all kind of alarm bells to people. You don't want to be having sex and it think that you're giving birth is all. Because that's going to be weird. Somebody shows up to deliver a baby, you're blinking out in the back seat. Baby's not going to be here for 9 months, doctor. So don't get in a Waymo. I would never get in a Waymo. This is an experiment. It's a total social experiment. And they're everywhere now, in the city anyway. And why not put them in the city, right? Gunfire, rape, everything. Just throw an automatic driving car with birthing women riding all over the city. It's perfect. You're not going to see a Waymo in the country. Haven't seen too many of those. There's not going to be a Waymo carrying a bale of hay over to old boy John's farm. I don't think. I could be proven wrong. How pregnant is old boy John? Nevertheless, I'm retarded. All right, moving on. What is up, BG? Are dogs alive? Yeah, that's a great question, actually. Well, so can they reject you from having a dog in a Waymo? Maybe they can. Maybe they refuse to drive. Maybe they're like, no, we sense a dog. What if you have a sex doll in a Waymo? Can you do that? Can you have a Christy Gnome bot, sex bot, real doll in the Waymo? Or were they? I don't know. The dog thing is a good question. They're very weird. They look like little like what are those cars called that can, like street cars in San Francisco that connect? They have the connecting thing at the top. They look like toys. And there are some funny videos of people getting pulled into curious situations with them. And that's what you get. That's what you get for getting in a car with that you have no control over. Is there a control feature on that? I don't think so. Everybody seems to be in the back seat. What if it's hacked? Everything is hacked. They are hacking the thermostats of corporations as a way to get in and shut down entire buildings right now. You're telling me they can't hack a Waymo? It's just, if you get in a Waymo, it's almost like a dare, you know? It's almost like jumping off a cliff just to see what it feels like, hoping that there's not a tree just beneath the water that's going to impale your body and end your life, is what Waymo feels like to me. But a lot of people will use it, and they will refine it, and there will be bad things that happen, unfortunately, because this is like when they rolled out the vaccine to old people and pregnant people after telling them they couldn't be part of the experimental trials because of the danger. Well, it's still part of the trial. They're just saying it's the real life thing. And that's what this is with all these car experiments, and they rushed it out there. Don't ever do chemo or radiation. That's what kills cancer. There's a lot to that. There is definitely. It's just so many tough choices when people get ill. I'm not going to go deep and dark on that because I've had a lot of illness in my family. But you're right. It's just, you have a lot of, you're faced when you're ill and you don't know what to do, and doctors are telling you you're out of options and the only choice is this bad thing or that bad thing. People are presented with a situation that they have never been taught about in their entire life. You don't learn about this growing up. You don't learn what to do in this situation when you're giving really tough choices when your life is depending on it. And your doctors are telling you, basically. And if there's anything about the education system, I don't even know how to do that. How to help people be prepared to confront situations like that. Because nobody wants to, and really, until people have been through it, they don't know how to. And so how do you teach something like that? Because it is the inevitable thing of life that we all face eventually, whether us or family members or friends, that there's no real, guide for. Because the guide has been the doctors our whole lives. But what do you do when the doctors say, I got nothing? Maybe we can try this type of stuff that, while it could help you, there's also going to be potentially some bad drawbacks. I could talk all day about that, actually. But then it takes so that's funny. The Waymo, that's very funny, BG. So she gives birth in the back of the Waymo. Waymo goes straight to the Planned Parenthood. You should write that down. That's a good joke. I don't know if you do stand up, but that's a keeper right there. God, so there's spam text even in the chats right now. It's unbelievable. Would you like many viewers? Many popular. So it's like an Asian retarded chat bot here in the live chat right now. Cable car. Yeah, cable cars. Thank you. Definitely. That's what they look like, is cable cars. Thank you. Thank you, long-time listener. Is that what that says? My screens aren't as big here, my tech experiment, so I'm kind of on the fly trying to adjust everything since it's a little bit different than my normal setup. Weird how there's only one company. Yeah, so Waymo is it's like it's trying to compete with Tesla before Tesla does the thing, because Tesla has kind of the automatic driving cars. Isn't that weird for it to be kind of an automatic driving car? Because that's where Tesla is. So at least Waymo, to its credit, is like, this is an automatic driving car. We prove it because you can see them driving around empty all over your city. But the Teslas are like, yeah, these are self-driving almost completely. Not completely, but mostly. You know, you have to not pay attention 90% of the time. So, you know, it'll be fine. You know, then it plows through somebody walking through a crosswalk. At least Waymo is giving full, plausible deniability. If you're having sex or giving birth in the back of a Tesla automatic driving car and you run into somebody or you plow through a police standoff, that's your fault because you knew that it's not fully self-driving yet and you could be held liable. Credit to Waymo. That Waymo gets all the city contracts, which is obviously a great source of corruption. Yeah. It's just what the inevitable outcome of self-driving cars like Waymo in the city is very obvious. Prostitution, drugs. I mean, why wouldn't people be sending drugs in the back of Waymos for somebody else to come pick up? Of course, there's going to be cameras. So the people will have to have, just full ski mask on. But part of the problem of dealing drugs in large amounts is transporting it by vehicle. By boat has become a problem for a lot of people in Venezuela. How are we spotting the drugs in the boats, by the way, in the Caribbean, the Venezuelan boats? Do we have a drug-sniffing whale? Dogs can't swim that far out in the ocean on their own, all right? And police officers certainly can't swim that deep into the ocean. Not without a life preserver, anyway. So if we have drug-sniffing whales, I'd like to know about it because that's a pretty cool thing. I know we have drug-sniffing sharks. They sniff periods, and they will eat your legs off if you let your woman in the ocean when she's menstruating. Let's say I didn't warn you. Please take it. I'd rather get in Waymo than on stage. That's a good joke, though. I couldn't. Yeah. Well, if I ever did that, I would definitely credit you because that's good stuff right there. All right. So I didn't mean to talk about Waymo that long, but Waymo is just an interesting thing to me because I'm seeing them everywhere now. You start to see these things, and then they just become normalized. And it's like, didn't you run through wasn't there 3 weird things that happened? And it's just, they keep doing it. They have to experiment in real time with all this stuff. Everything is a social experiment to a certain extent. So, real briefly, I saw this story about White House salaries. I haven't looked at all of the salaries yet, but I was curious, how much people who work at the White House make. And I thought we could kind of scan through that real quick. Can you guys see that? No, you can't. All right, there you go. So meet the highest paid White House staffers and see how much they make. Okay. It gives all this build up to it. Just tell us how much they make. Jocelyn Klopp. I don't know who that is, but that sounds like a character in Wizard of Oz. Jocelyn Klopp. It sounds like a weird, strange. It's an interesting name. Klopp. You can hear her coming all the time. So like a horse. Not her. She's not like a horse. Klopp sounds like something a horse would do. She is a senior immigration advisor. A senior immigration advisor. So that's what's going to be interesting is to see the bullshit titles they give to people just to pay. You almost definitely won't need all of these jobs. Senior immigration advisor. Is there a junior immigration advisor? I'm guessing. Freshman. She makes $225,700 a year. Good for her. That's the maximum salary possible for a senior executive. She's the top advisor to the border czar, Tom Homan. I can't say his Homan. Homan. And she's worked in the government for 17 years. What does that job entail? The senior executive top advisor to the border czar. So is she's at the border, she's staking out the wall, she's maybe pointing out the holes in the fence, or maybe she's pointing out, the Mexicans have ladders. They all have ladders. Why didn't we think of this before? They just prop the ladder up and climb right over this useless wall. Is she doing stuff like that? I don't know. Edgar, I can't even say it. McChain, MKRTCHIAN. This is a White House employee. And his title, that looks like a cryptocurrency. It looks like Edgar, and then his last name is a cryptocurrency. He looks like a shitcoin. Edgar's, you can buy 1 million Edgar McChain for 10,000 fractions of a penny, and hope it pumps, and you can make, a couple $1,000s. This person is an associate counsel. That's got to be a pain in the ass. This person in this high-ranking position has a last name nobody can pronounce. It doesn't even look real. It seriously looks like the last name of like a foster child. Like it's just somebody who just scribbled a bunch of letters onto a birth certificate and said, "Take the baby." Associate counsel making $203,000, $645,000 a year. Excuse me, I'm retarded. $203,645 a year. Somebody said, what do you do? You meet someone at a party. What do you do for a living? Well, my name is Edgar McChain. I am an associate counsel. What kind of numbers would pop into your head there? 50, 60? Oh, an associate counsel. You must be the associate of someone who counsels. Like a glorified secretary or something to a counselor. 60 maybe. $203,000. He began working as an advisor for the U.S. Commodity Futures Trading Commission in June. And then we have Brittany Baldwin, BB, double Bs. We'd love to see some double Ds, Brittany, but the double Bs will be okay for now. She's a senior policy advisor. These titles are they communicate nothing about what these people do. Now, she only makes $195,000 a year. This guy who's just an associate, he makes over $200,000, and she's a senior, and she makes $195,000. And then we have Michael James Blair, so a three-name guy, going by three names, a future assassin of something. MJB, Michael James Blair. He actually looks like he is Kevin Spacey, one of Kevin Spacey's lynchmen in House of Cards. Is kind of what he looks like. He is the Deputy Chief of Staff for Legislative, Political, and Public Affairs. He makes $195,000. What does that do? The deputy, so he advises people. Deputy Chief of Staff. So he's like the most senior guy on informing the administration about what's going on. I bet that's what he does. I bet he's like a public sentiment guy. And now we have Kaiser Blakely. Now we have a first name no one can pronounce. Kyser. That sounds like I don't know. It sounds like something that is. It sounds like something feminine. It's Kaiser Blakely. I don't know. It sounds like a style that Taylor Swift might start. Are you Kaiser? I'm Kaiser. Blakely. Senior policy advisor. A lot of so one senior policy advisor, $195,000. What was the previous senior policy advisor? $195,000. So same. Good. Same. At least we're getting fair pay here. And now we have no picture of that person, though. So is that person this bush? Are they hiding in the bush? Why instead of a person here, are they showing us a picture of 3 snowy bushes and a couple of White House pillars? Now we have Taylor Budowich, B-U-D, Budowich. So he's like, I'm the straight Budovich. He is a deputy chief of staff for communications and public liaison and cabinet secretary. 195. I'm going to zoom through these because I want to get to the Bernays stuff. I was just Elizabeth. Wow, these are very exotic names. Another senior policy advisor. Blake Dealey. Where's somebody that we recognize? I recognize Sergio Gore. This guy has a forehead that keeps going. Now, this is a Tinder profile that's probably his picture on Tinder or Grindr. Maybe Grindr is probably the more likely scenario. This is a director of the Office of Presidential Personnel. Presidential Personnel. 195,000. Vince Haley. Is there... All right. So a lot of them make right under 200,000, which is definitely a good salary. Peter Lake, same. All right, Caroline, the White House press secretary, she makes also 195,000. All right, they all make basically the same. Stephen Miller, same. All right, I was hoping to see like $5 million a year, something like really corrupt, but they kind of let us down there. All right, enough of that. All right, we're going to do a quick Nancy Mace story because Nancy Mace, I think the best way to describe Nancy Mace, to be fair about it, is that Nancy Mace is a bitch. And she was elected to Congress because of her tits. And every time she speaks, her giant breast lose power over every man, even if they're Republican and voted for her, in the country. Because she's a grifter. She represents the perfect prototype of what we see in Congress these days, the people who get elected, which are grifting, full of it, babes. Who are going to start OnlyFans when they lose their next election. She's running for governor of South Carolina. She's not going to win. Look for that OnlyFans because she's been 2 steps away from it with every single Instagram post where she's like, I'm fighting for the women. I'm fighting for the Jeffrey Epstein files. And every picture is just like what she says she's talking about featured away in the background. Prominent is her cleavage and breast. Who does that? Who's like, stop the trans in sports, and the picture is just her tits? Maybe she's going to smash them to death with those massive things. But the woman is insufferable. She went on the floor of Congress under the protection of the speech and debate clause and accused like 5 people of gang rape, drugging people, and filming sexual encounters with dozens of women. Provided no evidence and then handcuffed herself to like her desk very dramatically. And she pretended to take an oath of I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth. She did that in a very performative way on the floor of Congress during legislative session. So the reason that you are able to say things under the protection of the speech and debate clause, which gives you immunity from everything that you say, is because congressmen and women are supposed to be able to talk about ideas and laws that can be passed to help the country. But what it's used for, specifically by her in recent memory, is to go out and accuse people that she hates, ex-boyfriends, of rape, and her friend and his friends of rape, in a way that she could never do outside of that forum without getting sued out of her ass for defamation. Like there's criminal defamation and then there's civil. Like doing that in any other forum with the little amount of evidence she provided, and then accusing everybody who's in politics in South Carolina of being corrupted. I mean, she's a white, big-breasted Candace Owens in this type of thing, honestly. I know some of you guys love her, and maybe you love Nancy Mace too, but they're all con artists, okay? All of them. Watched my show yesterday. and you see what I'm talking about. Nancy Mace, look what she did. She's just like Jasmine Crockett. No different. They act like they're on different sides of the aisle. They're both dumb bitches. They're both dumb bitches who are grifting off of their beauty and their ability to get away with bullshit because they're attractive. I guess. Yeah, I mean, I love attractive women. They're beautiful, but psychopaths combined with attractive women, can be a deadly combination. Nancy Mace turned minor miscommunication into a profanity-laced spectacle at South Carolina airport, according to a police report. Representative Nancy Mace led a minor miscommunication. I can make this a little bigger. I can't see it. After this, we will do the Bernays thing. She let it blow up into a spectacle when she repeatedly cussed at cops for being late to escort her through a South Carolina airport. So they were late, and this is the same thing that Jasmine Crockett did recently. She expected the Charleston Airport Police to walk her through her gate promptly after being dropped off on October 30th, but flew into a rage, according to New York Post, when a supervisor who misidentified her car delayed the Congresswoman's meetup with law enforcement, according to a 10-page report. The South Carolina gubernatorial hopeful arrived at an unexpected location in a gray-silver BMW rather than a white one, as the supervisor, who the report said, read the email quickly and passed on incorrect information unintentionally. So she was upset about the color of the car. That's interesting, the white car versus the gray car, because I'm going to show you a clip of her talking about this, and you'll see what she's wearing. To me, it's very telling of her guilt, in my eyes, based on her outfit when she is asked about this story. Use of encrypted app Signal, it's always Signal, is what was used to communicate with the officers who were supposed to do that. And complications due to high personnel turnover in her office. I imagine she's probably awful to work for. Exacerbated the situation. Let's just see what she had to say about it instead of going through the whole article. Here she is now being questioned about this by the porcelain doll herself from CNN, Caitlin Collins. Another odd individual. These people are all psychopaths. Every single one of them.
Back in October, there was an internal police investigation report that came out in recent days. It says that you turned what was described as a minor miscommunication by police into a spectacle and left airport employees visibly upset. What was your reaction when you read this report?
Well, part of the report was actually falsified in the documents that were released by the airport yesterday. I want to thank the airport for releasing them. We asked for all the video, all the audio, everything, all the body cam, and the video that was released yesterday showed me asking TSA agents for help and for assistance. And conveniently, there is no audio that goes with it. And the last time that I checked was asking for help.
So you can see her walking through in this image. There's no audio, but you see her turning around and bitching at people. I'm taking it back a little to show you that. Look at her outfit. Nancy Mace never dresses like this. Nancy Mace never doesn't show her tits. That's her thing. She's dressed in all white, all the way up to the neck. I've never seen her not putting her cleavage right up at the front. And she has covered it all up, and she's dressed in white because she's trying to come off as angelic. She's trying to make it. She knows that she was an absolute C word to those people, is my opinion. And so she's like, I'm going to see if I can dress like a Christmas angel. I mean, what is this outfit even? She looks like she's a member of a boy band in this all. It's like ridiculous. And so here she is. And so you see her there pointing. And she's like, Nancy Mace is absolutely the type of chick who thinks that she can just do anything she wants. who can just go up and say, do you know who I am? She's a do you know who I am type of person. I have a feeling that most of the women, and probably men in Congress, are the same type. Because people let them get away with that. They have they're surrounded by these people who let them get away with being pricks. All right. So here she is. She comes walking through here. I'm just going to mute it for a second so you can see her. All right, there she comes walking. She's like walking fast. And you see how she's turning around bitching at these cops? I mean, these poor cops. You can see her. They're protecting her. These guys are protecting her. And you can see her just giving it to them. She's so pissed at them. She can't even walk without turning her head backwards to tell them how awful they are.
It's just exponentially multiply. I have multiple people sitting in jail right now behind bars without bond because of the death threats that I receive on a daily basis. So I take my security seriously, and that to me is very, very important. And I back the blue, I back our police, I back our security. In my district in South Carolina, I've gotten millions of dollars for local law enforcement to support them in their efforts to keep our communities safe. But what's not okay is falsifying reports, falsifying incident reports. I've taken on top cops like Kim Cheadle after Don.
So she says they falsified a report, but she doesn't say specifically. And in a minute, she kind of disputes very vague terms. Pretty inconsequential claims in the report. Not the underlying allegations of her just being an entitled bitch. She's the Davy Crockett of the Congressional Women's Bathroom. She's holding the line. That's all she tweets, is that she's preventing men who say they're women, transgenders, from coming into the women's bathroom in Congress and assaulting. That's not happening in Congress. That's not a problem that actually existed. There's this dudes playing sports saying they're chicks. Yeah, okay. Around the country, you see some events of that with high schools. Absolutely, some of that stuff. That stuff is like, you see. I made a highlight reel a couple years ago of this kid. He was like 18 years old. She claimed he identified as a girl, had done nothing except say he was a girl, nothing else. He's like 6'3", called himself a girl, played on the women's basketball team, and I found some of the videos, and I cut together a highlight reel of this guy just blocking the shit out of all the girls, just packing them, and literally he's groping their breasts while they're playing. That does not need to be allowed to happen. Nancy Mace acts like this is happening in the restroom on Capitol Hill, and she's the only thing protecting all of the Barbies in Congress. She's full of it. And every time people highlight how full of it she is, she goes back to that. She pretended like Trump endorsed her before when she was all in on 2021 was an insurrection. She just jumps on every single wave of popularity, just like all these people do. And so when Trump got mad at her and Trump endorsed her opponent when she ran this past election term, when she ran, I think 2 years ago, she went in front of Trump Towers and started saying, I'm ready to support Trump. And she totally did it to deceive her supporters into thinking that Trump was supporting her because she's out there. And he actually called her out on it. It's pretty funny. But that's the type of people you have here. They just jump on whatever the latest thing is that they think is going to ride them to mass popularity. I bet she does nothing. Seriously, I bet she spends her days getting dressed up, making sure her breasts are well lit in her photo shoots in front of the women's bathroom in Capitol Hill. And then I bet she does nothing else all day but try and boss people around. And that goes for most people, men and women in Congress. They don't do anything but come out and play ridiculous characters that's intended to divide and conquer the public and turn everybody against each other. That's all these people do all day long. And most of them are retarded. It's actually probably not actually, I mean, I know it's not that hard to get elected to Congress because there's districts all over the country. Many of them hardly have any candidates. All you gotta do is run. George Santos was a congressman. He made up his entire backstory. He's not the only one. He's just the one who's been exposed. AOC made up backstory. Presidents, Obama made up backstory. Most of them have a backstory that's almost entirely fabricated. There's kernels of truth, and they just turn it into some heroic arc and journey, their path to fight for the people. They don't care about, what they care about is attention and a bottom line. All of them. I mean, they're all so full of it. It's exhausting how full of it. Them and these, this is just a couple of attention whores who are both willing to lie for any cause and any paycheck, arguing with each other right here.
Donald Trump was shot. I helped force her resignation.
Yeah, but
she came through with the oversight.
You just said you backed the blue. The police quote you in this report as you calling them effing idiots and effing incompetent while stating that you're an effing representative and telling a TSA supervisor, I'm sick of your shit. I'm tired of having to wait. I should not have to wait. Also, you guys are always effing late and this is effing ridiculous. Are you saying you didn't say those things?
Well, you're quoting a document that was in part falsified. They say a lot of things and the video doesn't show that. There's no audio. I asked for all the body cam footage and the audio. They also state in the report that there was an incident at the gate. The video shows nothing that didn't happen. And so for me, it's important that we tell the truth. And I've taken responsibility. Yes, I was absolutely 100% frustrated.
Did you say those things that you're that I just read?
No, I did not. I mean, I definitely.
So you're saying the police officers are lying?
Yeah, she backs the blue. She's about to say, which is fine. You can back the blue, and because not all cops are monolithic. They try and corner you. That question's a bullshit question too. But like I just pointed out, she campaigned. She tried to deceive her supporters into thinking Trump endorsed her when he endorsed her opponent because he specifically called her a liar and a manipulator. Because they can recognize the con in each other. And when they start conning against each other, they call each other out. And they sit here and say, I'm a liar. I tell the truth. They use this line, too. I see this in social media influencers. They like to say, here's what I can tell you. I'll always tell you the truth. This is what I can do. I will always tell you the truth. You can trust in me to do that. You hear that line coming from someone, you're listening to a grifter, or you're reading a grifter. Oftentimes it's tweeted almost verbatim by big influencers online. And it's spoken by these con artists in Congress. You can always trust me. I will always tell you the truth. No, that's you don't ever do that unless it serves an agenda. You will tell us what serves your agenda if you think it's the right thing to do to manipulate us into helping you serve that agenda. None of these people care about truth. And I think everybody knows that. Most people know that. But, I don't know if most people know that, but I think people who listen to this show know that. Truth is the last thing that any of these people are concerned with. But it's the first thing they will try and portray them as being in the business of telling.
No, I'm saying that is in part false, and that is a falsified.
That is in part
document.
false.
There are things in there. Most of it.
So listen to what she did there. So Candace Owens is a lot better at this than she is. At first she said it didn't happen, and then she said it's in part false.
That I just read?
No, I did not. I mean, I definitely.
So you're saying the police officers are lying?
No, I'm saying that is in part false, and that is a falsified document. There are things in there. Most of what's in there that's quoted is not true.
Did I? So
that to me is important that we tell the truth. I asked for audio and I asked for body cam footage and they didn't release it. They say it doesn't exist. I asked for that because I think it's important that we tell the truth. I don't even remember that morning, but what I do remember is being at the gate and being on a conference call. And like last time
That's not how you do an improv phone. You don't have wires in your fingers. An improv phone, you hold like that and you visualize the rest of the phone.
checked.
You don't remember having this tense interaction?
Oh, I
with the
definitely was
officers?
frustrated, 100% frustrated. I definitely, when the law enforcement finally showed up for the security detail, I absolutely was frustrated. But the video that they released are showing me asking for help. Like I asked.
Yeah, I wonder how many people's lives she threatened to ruin in this whole airport. Because you know they like to do that. I'll ruin you. Do you know who I am?
TSA agents for help when I was.
Well, there's
looking for
also part of the
security.
video. There's where you speaking to a TSA agent. There's also
Yes.
part of the video where you're walking down the hallway and there are two officers behind you. I
Yes.
assume they're the ones who
See it, yeah.
spoke
Yes,
to the
and
to
where
the
I'm
investigators here.
pointing, I was pointing to a security desk where the airport security usually sit and wait, and I was asking the TSA agent if she could call down to the security desk and get assistance for me.
So she's trying to cross the boundaries
that's
of her
not
lane, is
asking
what she's
TSA for help isn't
But do you-
against the law.
But
she is.
are you saying that you never said any of these quotes? That every single one is a lie?
You know she's calling those guys fat Fs. There's no
You
doubt.
have to read it to me again. I did
Effing
not say
idiots,
that. I did
effing
not call
incompetent,
them
and that
idiots.
you're an effing
I did
representative.
I did not say that.
You have to read them to me again, like she doesn't know. And she probably didn't say it verbatim the way Caitlin Collins said it. She probably didn't call them effing idiots. She probably called them effing fat idiots. And so she can say, no, I didn't say what you said, Caitlin.
I did
And
not
you didn't
call,
say, I'm sick of your shit.
I
I'm
have-
tired of having to wait. I should not have to wait. You guys are always effing late. This is effing ridiculous.
No. I mean,
She definitely said a variation of that.
no. I've never
Yes, she
called a
did.
cop
Look
an
at her.
idiot. That is a remarkably.
She's so bad at it. She's so bad at this lie.
Representative.
I did not say that. I did
And
not
you didn't
call,
say, I'm sick of your shit.
I
I'm
have-
tired of having to wait. I should not have to wait. You guys are always effing late. This is
No.
effing ridiculous.
No. I mean, no. I've
no.
never called a cop
She's like,
an idiot. That is.
I've never called it. No, I mean, no. What I said was, you guys are fat Fs. This is ridiculous. Have you seen my tits? I don't wait. She hasn't had to learn to be as skilled of a con artist as some of the ones who are not as well endowed as her in the chest. And quite frankly, she doesn't like having to use anything more than her breast to get what she wants.
remarkably false.
Her great breast, by the way. I'll say that.
But you're saying these police officers are lying then who spoke to the investigators?
I am absolutely saying that report was falsified, 100%
We know you're
fictitious,
saying it.
falsified.
Doesn't mean it's
They
falsified.
were not there. They did not show up.
Do that. They all do that. I'm absolutely saying that it's falsified. We know that you're saying that. So that's not a lie because it's true that she's absolutely saying it. They all use that type of word twisting to say that they didn't lie about anything.
I was very frustrated.
And I'm showing this because it's just another example of what all of these people, influencers and politicians, are doing nowadays. She's just one of the glaring examples of it because she's not as skilled at it.
with the situation because of the number of death threats that I receive. And I express that frustration, but in no.
Throwing in the death, they all say they have death threats. Some of them probably do. Anybody who's a public figure gets a lot of weird messages, but that's something that's always tossed in, no matter the legitimacy of it or not. People should be safe. There's no doubt about that. But also, when you know you can shut people up and you know you can get people to say, okay, and do what you want by just claiming something like that without proving it, then they do it, and that's why they all do it. There's not a person in Congress who hasn't said that I can think. Okay, so that's not a good way to do it because there's a lot of people in Congress, but every person that comes to mind in Congress that I can think of in the immediate right now, I can think of a time they claimed that they were getting death threats, and they made that claim in the context of being asked a question they didn't want to answer that would have revealed something negative about them. It's such a playbook they all follow.
way, shape, or form did I call any of them idiots. I didn't even know that was in the report until you told me just now. I never said, I have never called someone an idiot. That is
She's never called anyone an idiot.
shocking to me.
Shocking.
When you look back on that day,
She's a white
and
angel.
what you said, I guess you haven't read the report if you haven't, because those
Well, I've
quotes
read
are
part
in-
of it. I just,
doesn't know how to read.
it
When
was
you look
such a
back on that
political
day-
hit job.
Do you regret? I think everyone can understand being
Caitlin
concerned
Collins
about being a public figure,
looks like a
especially being a
wind-up
member
doll.
of Congress, especially after the Charlie Kirk assassination. But do you regret your actions and how you did speak towards the airport employees or the police officers that day?
This is just so funny because this one bitch trying to press another. This is a bitch, y'all. It was a cat fight.
Well, expressing one's frustration isn't illegal. Like, it's not, you can be frustrated.
No one's saying you committed a crime. I think they're just saying,
they filed
regret how you
a
acted?
police incident report. Like, you know, the idea that expressing one's frustration.
She might as well be dressed like a nun right here, with what she's trying to do. That would be, at least, we all know what she's trying to do. At least make us laugh. Go full on nun. Like, what are you talking about? I'm a virgin. I've never even spoken to a man.
Is an arrestable offense, it's obscene. And what the video showed yesterday that they released showed me asking for help. And the video they released of me at the gate showed me on a conference call.
Yeah.
And then I scanned my ticket on my cell phone on the scanning machine, and then I put my phone back up, and the airport gate agent said I said good morning. Like, there's nothing wrong.
What's crazy is that everybody's had experiences where they've had to wait, especially at airports. And this just illustrates the privileged she's so privileged. She should never have to. BG says, but in MAGA world, insulting a uniformed officer is worse than trafficking children. Yeah, you know, the whole Epstein thing, none of them really want to talk about that at all. Nancy, little Timmy fell down the well. Okay. Zach says, if she just said, yeah, I was hangry, and called him, I agree with you, Zach. Nancy Mace doesn't get that part of it. So some of them recognize that's what Trump does. Trump is like, yeah, I called him retarded. He's a retard. He's got a small dick. He's a faggot. Like Trump does that because he recognizes at least people will respect or laugh at that, even if they don't like what he's doing in other arenas. They'll say, yeah, I respect that he called Tim Walz a faggot and a retard. But she always tries to act like she's not what she very obviously is. And if she embraced it, I think you're right. I think people go, okay. She should say, look, I'm Nancy Mace. I am a congresswoman. I was the first woman who went to Citadel because of my father. He got me there. My tits are immaculate. Caitlin, you would pay every dollar you had just to touch them. And so would those police officers. And guess what? You pave a way for me and my breasts to walk through the airport. These tits don't wait, all right? I'm a huge, obnoxious, lying slut. I shouldn't call her a slut. She kind of is. I shouldn't say that. I shouldn't slut shame. That's my fault. That's me. See, I'm admitting it. She did go do church events and talk about how she had morning sex with her boyfriend that she's now accusing him and his friends of gang rape on the floor of Congress. So that's where that comes from, out of me. It's crazy too, because some of the positions Nancy Mace takes, like all these people, I absolutely agree with, even though I don't believe they do it genuinely. It's disingenuous. But they're so disingenuous and so they think they're so great that I can't take it. Nancy Mace should be somebody's aging trophy wife right now is what she should be. I don't even know if her boobs are real, honestly. I think there's a whole controversy about it, actually. They might be fake.
Actually, I read that they said that you didn't. The gate agent said you didn't actually respond.
He said a good morning or what? Yeah, because
they said good morning to you, and you just.
I was on a conference.
Caitlin Collins hates her because Caitlin Collins doesn't have that rack, and that's where some of the conflict comes in here.
Call.
Okay, so but you don't. I just want to be clear though, because I think everyone's reading this report.
Clear.
We saw what
It's
Senator Tim
wild.
Scott had to say from your home state about this, saying it's not okay to berate police officers in airports.
All right, so that's enough of that. That's enough of that cat fight. Let's talk about Bernays. Well, one more short video, then we'll hit Bernays. So I don't know a lot about what's going on with the Venezuelan boats. Like I said, how do they sniff out the boats? But I did search this because I remember reading about this for a while ago. Drug mules are usually hidden, in something that is normal goods or something you wouldn't expect to be drugs. I don't know if it says drugs on the outside of this boat. I have no idea. But I thought this was interesting. that some cartel members, drug traffickers, it's like a 20-second clip. Drug traffickers build many whale submarines, is what it says. Is that up there? Yeah, all right.
Drug traffickers are creating high-tech fake marine animals to hide underwater vessels. The Italian mafia, South American cartels and bikie gangs are using sophisticated technology to avoid detection. Interstate underworld sources claim they are designing mini submarines disguised as whales.
So I play that to tell the whales and the fish and the dolphins and the octopi, get out of the Caribbean, because you're next. You're going to see Pete Hegseth. He's going to have a press conference. He's going to be holding a whale or dolphin. Say, we got him. It's not even fentanyl, maybe. I don't know. I don't know what it is. Who knows what it is? That's what they say, that it's more cocaine, which, by the way, you're only hurting Wall Street when you're taking all the cocaine out of the system. How do you stay up all night crying into a high-end hooker's chest and then get up 2 hours later and go make $1 million trades? You don't do it without a little Venezuelan cocaine. Hurting the stock market. He's holding the way. Is that Dolly the dolphin, Hegseth? Did you bomb SeaWorld? Maybe there's some shit going on at SeaWorld. Probably. He slices it open. The drugs fall out of it. I mean, they'll kill the orca in a second. Hegseth will be like, save the orca for me. And he'll eat them to death from the outside in. I do give Hegseth credit for playing basketball at Princeton in the NCAA tournament. Although I maintain that I would whip his ass in one-on-one. I would. I'd put a lot of money on that too. Nevertheless, participant trophy. I'm Nancy Mace, a collie dog. All right, so I like to read Edward Bernays quotes every now and then just because it helps me, and his books are so insightful, or not necessarily insightful. Some of them are, but they're eye-opening to the way the media operates, even 100 years later, over 100 years later. His books tell us exactly how things work. And there's a couple that I recommend everybody reading. They're easy reads, and they're only like $10 or less on Amazon. Propaganda, that's the one most people know. The one that's better, in my opinion, is Crystallizing Public Opinion. And there's another one called Public Opinion that he wrote years later, in which he brags about how he bamboozled people into supporting a war they never would have using atrocity propaganda, on page 75. I'm serious. Go read page 75 of Public Opinion by Edward Bernays. He brags about bamboozling the public into supporting a war they never would have because him and the propaganda agency in the U.S. got, his word, not mine, the public hysterical through their atrocity propaganda stories, which were made up by them. Not to say that atrocities don't happen, but he's very open, and so are some of these other propagandists. They wrote these books for each other. Instructional books for each other and for people who were going to become propagandists. Edward Bernays created the term public relations because after World War I and after the public discovered some of the lies they had been told that got them to go from a neutral one to stay out of the war into being hungry for war to join the side of the Brits, Woodrow Wilson got elected on the promise to keep us out of war. 6 months later, he gets us in war with the help of Edward Bernays and the Creel Commission, the propaganda organization, the first mass-scale organized one in the U.S. with the help of the Wellington House over in the U.K. that had infiltrated all around the country. They had sent sirs and dukes, Sir Gilbert Parker is one of them, to come infiltrate the academic elites and the celebrities around the country, to whisper in their ear, to stir up the war fervor in their minds so that they would tell the people they influenced. And Sir Gilbert Parker wrote letters back and forth to Lord Northcliffe of the Wellington House, the head of the War Propaganda Bureau, about how gullible the academics in America were because they thought they were so smart, they believed they could never be bamboozled, making them the easiest to bamboozle because all they wanted was lords and dukes at their parties. And so they would listen and believe anything they said. These are all letters that you can read about in Edward Bernays' books. There's another book called Getting Us into War. It's like a 700-page book written by Porter Sargent. It's a great book. Everything is documented. So these are the types of things that went on to get us into war that are very open about. And Edward Bernays puts it pretty, when he created the term public relations, it was because, so he always thought propaganda was like a great thing. But because it got a bad stigma, he said, let's call it public relations. Thank you. That's very kind of you, BG. I appreciate that. Thank you very much for that. That's very kind of you. That's it. That's awesome. Thank you. So Bernays, all right, where are these quotes? There's so many quotes in that book too. We could read these for hours, and I find them interesting. Here's just like, I think I got about 8 of them here. In this book, he's explaining what this new profession that he's created, public relations, means to the news world and what the job of a public relations person entails. And he makes clear at the beginning of the book that public relations is a new term for propaganda. It's a rebranding is what it is. A rebranding, something Trump's very good at, rebranding things that people formerly perceived as bad into something good. Although I don't get the Department of War one. It's more accurate. It's always been the Department of War. It's more on the nose than Department of Defense. But like rebranding things instead of changing and not doing them, it seems to be the MO for a lot of people in politics. But Bernays says in Crystallizing Public Opinion, here's the first quote. He says, "Nothing so easily catches general attention and creates a crowd as a contest of any kind. Divide and conquer." That's my input. Then he says, "The crowd unconsciously identifies its members with one or the other competitor. Success enables the winning crowd to crow over the losers, to own the libs," is kind of what I see there, or own the Republicans, whatever. He then says, "Such an occasion becomes symbolic and is utilized by the ego to enhance its feeling of importance." That is something that I think we can all recognize that goes on. But when you hear the head propagandist for 50 years until he was almost 100, 5 different administrations, saying that we use this thing as a way to manipulate people 100 years ago, there's zero chance this is not going on at an advanced scale using technology, using interest and likes that they can gather all this info from us on social media. So that's why it's so hard. It goes against our own nature to question the person who is getting us riled up against somebody else that we identify with. But that's who he's talking about. Manipulate people by being the one they identify with and stirring them up into this state. He then says in another quote, "We have to take sides," talking about the public and humans. "We have to be able to take sides. In the recesses of our being, we must step out of the audience and onto the stage and wrestle as the hero for the victory of good over evil. We must breathe into the allegory the breath of our life." Quote number 3, "The Public Relations Council finds the instinct of pugnacity," I might have said that wrong, but the fighting instinct, "a powerful weapon for enlisting public support for or public opposition to a point of view in which he is interested." He is literally talking about turning the public against each other and having them fight. On this principle, he will, whenever possible, he's talking about the Public Relations Council, the propagandist. He will state his case in the form of an issue and enlist in support of his side such forces as are available. State your issue and find the people who will fight for it or find the people who will fight for some issue that you can use to rope in or steer them in the direction you want. Quote number 4. Mental habits create stereotypes just as physical habits create certain definitive reflexive actions. These stereotypes or reflexive images are a great aid to the propagandist counsel in his work, obviously. But just hearing them say it 100 years ago. This is an interesting one. I love this one. For the Public Relations Counsel must not only supply news, he must create news. He must create news. The function as the creator of news is even more important than is his other functions. Pugnacity can be used to suppress and oppress. This is another revealing one. Got like two, last two here. Pugnacity with its attendant emotion of anger is a human constant, Pugnacity with its attendant emotion of anger is a human constant. The Public Relations Counsel, propagandist, uses this continually in constructing all kinds of events that will call it into play. Because of it, he is often forced to enact combats and create issues. I'm going to read that one again. That's like another way of describing PR stunts, false flags, everything we see in the news. Pugnacity with its attendant emotion of anger is a human constant. The Public Relations Counsel uses this continually in constructing all kinds of events. Remember, create the news. Constructing all kinds of events that will call into play, that he will call into play. Because of it, he is often forced to enact combats and create issues. Isn't that interesting? Enact combats and create issues to trigger emotions, to get people to take sides they identify with, so to engage the fighting instinct in people, so to direct them in the way that you hope to direct them as a propagandist. That, to me, describes everything that happens in the mainstream media, on social media with big influencers, and with all of the infighting that goes on all the time. I've gotten to the point where, and I know it's not always going to be the case, there's going to be people who have actual arguments, but I've gotten to the point where when I see two big influencers who have opposing positions, who fight vehemently over something, that they both got together beforehand and said, hey, look, we're both going to make a lot of money if we fight it out and we get everybody in the engagement of our comments to fight, because that's how the X algorithm works, and that's how we create our sides they identify with that we can then use to steer in one direction or the other and turn into a cash cow moving forward. X, honestly, disgusts me. I've gotten to the point where I can't stand X. I think it's a lot worse. So you can say more things, yes, but the things you say doesn't get heard when it's legitimate. The things that get heard are the propaganda, the infighting, the bullshit. Anything that's actually legitimate is shadow banned or swallowed up. I used to get lots of engagement on X. Most of the posts that I posted would get thousands of views. You can see the views. And that's not a lot, but it's still more than the 50 or 60 that I get now. I will post something now. I posted last night that Benjamin Netanyahu's favorite podcaster is Candace Owens. You know, because those two worlds like to act like these two worlds are separate. They're not. They're not separate. They're the same. I don't know how many views it has now, but it wasn't even above 100. Just a regular. I could tweet out a period or a comma a month ago, and it'd get 500 views in an hour. Because most things, almost anybody could do that, because that's just how it works. But now, unless you are taking a strong position for or against something and engaging this pugnacious instinct that Bernays talks about to turn the people against each other, you're not getting anything. And the news, We are the news. X is a terrible source of news. Half of the time it's AI created. What's the guy's name? Mario Narfile. I totally butchered his name. But the guy who came out of nowhere, who always posts the long breaking news, and he does the X spaces. Read his post sometime. I just read one of his full X posts last week, and I was so confused because it made no sense. It was like a Chat GPT post that confuses facts. Like if you say, hey, what movie is not Bruce Willis? Bruce Willis isn't doing movies anymore. What movie is whatever actor Arnold Schwarzenegger in where he gets shot? And it'll be like Arnold Schwarzenegger was shot in 2002 and he died and was buried. It'll give you this like weird story that's like this. None of this makes, and then it'll rope in other things that are true and then have some weird fairy tale. I read one of his posts, and his post was exactly like, it was very obvious that Mario Narfal, his posts are AI generated. I read a couple more. Also didn't make a lot of sense. Some of them did give a coherent story, but this guy's one of the most go-to news people, according to big influencers on X. I gave Scott Adams the credit earlier. Scott Adams, not long ago, I heard him praising Mario Narfal, and I rolled my eyes when he did it. And now I know that he probably hasn't read all of his posts, because if you read all of the posts this guy puts out, they're clearly AI. Now, he's a real person, I think. He does the spaces. You've seen him in videos. But he's not posting this stuff. And that's probably the case for most long-winded posts. Anybody writing multiple paragraphs on X has entered a prompt into Chat GPT and is banking on people reading the first couple of sentences that says, breaking, shocking claim, and not reading how nonsensical the 18 paragraphs that follow are. Because if you put a lot of paragraphs in there, it must be credible. It must be detailed. It's not. It's as fake as Nancy Mace's tits. See you, dude. Thank you. I appreciate you, man. And I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up today. I really do encourage you to read Edward Bernays' book, to read those two books I mentioned, Propaganda, Crystallizing Public Opinion, and Public Relations, which was written years later. They're all very practical books for just kind of reading them and understanding how things continue to operate just with more advanced technology, and also the big con. And it's empowering and freeing. To me, it is. I remember when I used to believe things. When I was very young, I always was very always asked a little too many questions. I think a lot of us did in this conspiratorial community. But I remember the feeling of realizing that a lot of the people in charge of things, in politics anyway, they're just con artists in nice outfits. Most of the time, they're the con artists that were able to organize the most people without being exposed for what they are. The ones that didn't, they didn't make it. And to me, that was very freeing because it destigmatizes any of those people. To me, it makes them like clowns. Like, I look at most of these politicians and it's like these people, they're a joke. They're a joke. They're weak. And then you try to tell people that and they're like, screw you. You 7K shill, you anti-Semite, 7K shill. And then it's like, social media is what enables social media. I'm not going to go off on a tangent on that because they did have the social media story in Australia about them I don't know all the details of it, where they're going to require authentication for kids that are like 16. I think social media is terrible for young people. I think it's terrible for anybody, honestly. I think there's a lot of good things about it, but I think it's very difficult to balance the PSYOP capability that it enables and all of the other distractions. But kids, absolutely. But I don't know that we should be setting this is a pilot thing is what it is. They're doing a pilot in Australia experiment to see how it works, to require children. They're putting it on the platforms. The platforms have to prevent them, the kids under 16, I think, from getting on these platforms. So they have to do the age verification on steroids somehow, which is going to lead to either black market social media, which, it's like Silk Road type stuff, or the rise in children who are buying like 5-minute mask or buying like, who's to say, can you put on like a Richard Nixon mask and it's just, I'm 85, let you in? I don't know. But there's going to be a lot of kids in Australia finding out whether or not that's true. That's all I'm going to do, guys. Thanks for hanging out. Let me do my little experiment. I'm refining the show, even if my rambles don't always necessarily make it seem like it. But yeah, moving into the new year, going to be doing some more polished stuff. That's why I'm trying to figure out the tech stuff. Because unlike Chris Cuomo and Joy Reid, I don't have 15 people behind the camera helping me pretend to be and doing a podcast in my house. It's just me here. So streamlining the technology so we can be a little more polished in the coming year. Thanks a lot, guys. Thank you again, BG. I appreciate you guys. And what's today's date? Yeah, we'll definitely do like 3 or 4 more shows at least before Christmas. But I hope everybody's having a good holiday. And yeah, just enjoy things, smile, hug people, play, have fun. Life is good. Life is very good, despite what the propagandists who need people to depend on them would say. You guys are great. Talk to you guys next time. Have a fantastic rest of your day.